Hello and welcome everyone to yet another episode at the Indie Football Podcast. Today, our guest is Heider Ali, a 25-year-old internationally certified psychic medium, aura energy reader, a Reiki grandmaster. I am not sure if I understand all of what I just said, but we are going to ask him what it is all about. Thank you, Heider Bhai, for being here. How are you feeling today?
Thank you, Anushkaran and Divyapan. I don't know if I'm spelling your name right or wrong because I
It's
need some more time to. I
it's
need time.
Anukash. It's Anukash and Doipan.
Of course,
It's
I
I
want.
Anukash and Doipan.
Yeah, I
yeah,
need to break
you
it
get
down
there.
into like three to four small names only. So I am doing good, and it's a pleasure to be here and between you guys. And thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, I hope for next 30 minutes we are going to have lots of interesting conversation about football. I mean, mainly and other things as well. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to it, and I think you guys will be a great host. So yeah, let's get
Yeah.
started.
With that additional soft burden, I'll go and ask Anukarsh sir about how Heather, being someone who specializes in helping individuals discover their lives and open their psychic gifts. It's interesting because we haven't had someone like him before, right?
Well, yeah, he brings a very different side to the show. I mean, I remember I was on a vacation, but still Heather Bhai kept me in a conversation for 30 minutes. So you can understand how interesting Heather Bhai is as a person. And like we have been in touch for quite some time. This episode has been a long time pending. A lot of things have happened here and there, but yeah, all is well that ends well. And I am really happy to have Heather Bhai here. And I think he brings a very different element to the Indie Football podcast because not only is he going to talk a bit about his medium, but he's also going to talk about football as a and how football has influenced his life. So yeah, Heather bhai, welcome to the show. We are proud to have you here, and tell us a bit about your medium.
So yeah, okay. I think for it's a very good question. I mean, you guys were also intrigued, right? When you are, I mean, on a personal level, right? What is medium? And nowadays, it's a very I mean, many people are using it as a a show game, like mediumship and all this big stuff. So I'll be very honest. So what mediumship is? I think mediumship is some kind of a personal ability where you can communicate to other thing. I mean, things are on another side. Like it might be energy, right? We all know that we are energy beings, right? We have this aura, and I'm not sure you have heard about this electromagnetic field that every
Yeah,
human being have, right? So we all have these electromagnetic fields that we are unable to see it because it's a vibrational field, so we are not able to see it from our naked eyes. So medium is somebody who can able to tune into those energy, those higher vibration, and can convert those energy, or can explain those energies to a person on a day to day basis. So medium
I
is
would like
somebody.
to
Yeah.
I would
So
like to ask you just to ask one question, like, sorry to interrupt you here, but like, there's a very interesting thing which you talk about, in which you can kind of recognize the energies of other people. Do you think, like, in football also, this can be used, like, by managers to kind of understand the energy in the dressing room at the other end and maybe use that, in their own teams to how be able to kind of play that mental game when it comes because as most of the legends say that most of the players who have done well say that it's 50% game is mental and do you think it can be used in any sport also?
well, I think it can be used. I'm not sure that now it is being used or not because as we know, this quantum energy, and we are still very far from the discovery of all these kind of stuff. So it might
Interesting.
take us a time, like I'll say 10 years or 5 years, because people are not very open to accepting all these kind of things. They
Yeah.
still think so.
Right.
What practically can be done is that they are try to understand themselves, like who they are. If they start to investigate, yeah, who they are as a person, and right, so they'll come to know,
Hmm.
acha, we have these abilities, and we are. I'm not just talking about big things, right? Impossible. Like, it is possible, but it comes with the time. Like football, like you said, it's a game of practice, right? You just cannot appear on the field and you can expect to score 10 goals right on the first day. You need to practice for 10 years only, then you can expect some good result, because it's a
Right.
skill, not just a gift or something, right? So I think it can be, but if for that one need to have understanding of the self. And once they start to understand who they are actually in terms of their not only physical beings, I mean, in terms of other spiritual side or emotional or mental, whatever you want to say it. So once they try to understand who they are, so they'll understand there we have all these emotional scales from up and down. So yeah, they can understand the emotion
Mm,
scale and the energy, so they can understand, okay, what, because it's a very important thing, because from which energy they are playing for, right? So for example, if we see the Ronaldo or Messi, so they have this, so people call it they have a talent, but no, they also have these higher energies, they are working with them, right? So yeah, we
mm,
can talk to them, but we need to understand how these energy works, and we need to align with these energies, only then we'll be able to do it. So yeah, there should be methods now, I mean, for the managers or who's the people who are looking after the teams, to make the people who are players, make them understand the fact that okay, these are also things are real, right? So they can bring some people who are actually helping with these all stuff and all that, so they can okay understand good inside of it, and they can do small ideas or things and all that. So yeah, it will help them definitely to understand energy and how does it work, and definitely it will improve the game, and results will be
mm.
understanding, so I mean out of standing. So yeah, definitely it can, right?
I
I
won't be
think
surprised if I won't be surprised if the Indian team contacts you after this, because I think this
Yeah,
could be a
I
side that we could
yes,
use.
I hope so. I mean, because you guys are going to next whosoever come from. I don't know. It might be so. I am open to it, and so yeah. But my charges
yeah,
are going to be like next level.
yeah. That's that's an interesting perspective, Heather bhai. But a couple of things that stand out for me, आपने जो यहाँ पे बोला, is that first you mentioned how Ronaldo and Messi, they have almost transcended the physical attributes of players of their generation, and you mentioned how of course there are certain other energies involved, and which is a different way, different outlook to think to things. Now, as we ask, my last question around this medium bit is, how do you feel when someone, and of course from a, most of our listeners are a bit of from are a bit nahi, mostly are from the footballing audiences, how do you think a person can become a medium or connect to these things that you are saying? Like, agar mujhe aaj I am intrigued by it and I want to get more into it because I want to become something like that, how do you
Hmm.
think that works for different people?
So I'll give you a very short and brief answer, and I think the best example you can give is by relating it to yourself. So I'll say how does it started all for me. First of all, I think it was a blessing only when I was like a teenager in 13 to 14 years. I was very depressed and all that stuff. So it's a part of a game, right? So I had to go through these experiences in order to open up my gift. So when I was going through those hard experiences in my teenagers, so I feel like that I cannot make it. I was not sure, right? So I don't know, I had this kind of started to have those feelings that yeah, there's something out there that can so I started to hear things, and I started to seek energies and all that stuff. With the grace of God, I mean, I when I started to work on these skills like meditation, and when I so I started to discover there is so much to ourselves that we are not able to feel or see it, right? So I started to give time to like any other skills or like football, right? So I very simple, I would relate it to. So every skill, this is also a skill, right? So what you can do is you can start with the meditation. So we all have these chakras and energy. I think you are very familiar with all these concepts, right? So there's a universe and all that. So basically there's energy out there, and we are also energy beings. So what have we have these, so what do you start once you start to meditate and start working with these energy, so your chakras, your energy started to align with those higher energies in the universes. So what happens once started to you are started to see those energies and those, technically how you can do it as well, started to do the same thing, like you can do these meditation on a really day-to-day basis. It will not happen in a day or so, it might take you a year or so. I'll be very practical, because it took me around like 3 to 4 years in order to have a complete gain
Hmm.
mastery over these skills. So once you have good understanding of these ability, and with the grace of God, it also happens, right? So what happens, your energy fields open up, and you started to feel those psychic energies. So psychic energies or
Interesting.
abilities are nothing but your higher energy, your higher mind abilities. Like for example, we have this physical mind, so we able to think, and so there's a higher mind, super conscious mind, that help us to do able to think beyond ability, what we see,
Right,
or
right.
right. So it's
Huh.
very simple,
Makes
you
sense.
can just start meditation and started to discover yourself. And even if you'll start to read a book, so I think it will help you to communicate with the soul, the spirit that we say we all have, right? So that how.
Interesting point you put here. Interesting point you put here, Heather, because meditation is also considered something very important when it comes to making those split second decisions. And
Right,
like
exactly.
as you talked about, growing up, like about the hard time you get had, but in the pre-show you also talked about how football became closer to your life, right, when you were growing
Yes.
up. So how do you think that, other than the medium thing, how do you think football as a sport helped you, kind of go to the helped you as a person, and how do you think like sport in general can help an individual to get past the adversities in life?
Well, I think it's very good questions. I was a football fan from my childhood. Whenever so we have this thing, right? So when we used to go to in the school, so in the morning before assemblies, so your classmates are talking about the game that has happened. I think you both can also relate to the fact, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
of course.
okay. So I was not a very big fan. So I sometimes I used to be numb, like what they're talking about, because So but yeah, I started to take some interest into it. So acha, so the once you start growing up, so as you start to understanding, so this is the club and this is a, so yeah, it was a very good experience. So when I came in my 10th and 11th and 12th, so I got opportunity because I got the role of a house captain in my school. So I got this badge. So it was a mandatory for all the batch, the people who are leading the sections and all that, they had to participate in any sport. So I had to
And
participate. I got
which
selected in
school?
my,
Which
I
school
was,
and which city is it?
yeah, so I was in Bareilly. I'm from Bareilly, so I was in Hartman College. It's a very good school. It comes. I mean, it used to come in top 50 India school, but recently there's nothing left to come into top 50. So they are going in top last top 50s. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you were telling.
Yeah. So from I think I got an opportunity. So I was not a very good player because I was not able to give time to it because it required practice. So I was very much out of sync, practice and all that. So I think I remember I was playing at I mean like on the back side, not even at the either the I think for the defend I have played it. So yeah, I was just even and that also on the side. I was asked to stand there, so make sure that the ball, if it comes to that side, just kick it out. But what happens with the grace of God? So I don't know what happened. I mean, I scored that one goal that day. I it really. I was out of the question because I think the team opposite team was not very powerful. They are playing, so I got a
I
chance to.
Yeah,
So
I'll
I
be honest. I do understand when even I was younger, I used to not play a lot of football, but the number of goals I have scored, I can remember that in one hand. I can count that in one hand. So it's of course very memorable for you us to score
I'll
goals with
pitch in here. I'll pitch in here. Although I was a very average player at sports, like to be very honest, there were two moments in my life which I had like to talk about. One was in school. It was my first year in a new school, and it's very difficult to make friends when you're in six or seven when you enter into a new school. And suddenly, I don't know what happened by a stroke of luck because offsides clearly do not exist in school. So yeah, I scored a hat trick once. It was all tap-ins, and I remember how I made so many friends after that. And
Yeah,
once it
obviously,
happened,
I mean, and I and
once
I think you must have got many proposals after that because girls love football.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I got at least two after that. I definitely got two.
of
so
course
you
it's a it's a
yeah,
style
and once
in itself.
happened in
Yeah.
my society when yeah, that also happened that in the same year I had moved to a different society because of course change of city, change of place, and
Yeah.
of course again I was struggling to make new friends. But then I went and they switched me on at half time, and somehow again I got tappins and I scored a hat trick there also. And I made friends there also. So I think football or sport maybe as a medium can really help you. Like it helped you in getting
Yeah.
proposals. It
See,
made really helped me in making friends at that point of time.
yeah, I mean, I like you asked me that question that how it changed your life. So I think after that I played for my team. Although it was not a very big moment in my life, but it somehow contributed because then I realized something that yeah, there's still something inside me that wants to live, and because I think the way I see football is very much related to your life and spirituality also. I
Hmm.
think it's a question we'll come forward to. So I think I mean the way I see football and life is very related is in because uh, the 90-minute games is your life. The way I see it, you have the 90 minutes of your life, and your soul. I mean, this football is your the north star or the guiding star that where you need to take it, your goal, ultimate goal, and your where you like in life you have to have a goal, right? If you do not have a goal, if you're not able to go anybody, and if you're just
You
here and there,
just
so yeah,
wiggle
so your life
along,
is
yeah.
pretty much is going to end very well, and the game you're going to lose. So I think it's very much related that yeah, it's a game of up and downs. Like I said, that you are never going to ever always win. Neither you are always going to lose. So there is always going to up and down. The key is always to maintain the balance, right? So never, I mean, stop associating yourself to the extremes. Like that, this is, if this has happened, this is very wrong, and this has happened, this means very good. So I think I believe this in philosophy that yeah, extremes are very bad things. Always try to live in the center. So football help us to give us that insight also, right? Yeah, that yeah, there's a balance, and you can, I mean, every player need to understand that. So once
No
you start
wonder, no
balance,
wonder football starts in the center, when the ball is
yeah, yeah, that
kicked
is
off.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So talking about football, actually, like one question I have, like, like how football helped you mentally and in getting proposals also. Do you think like
No,
so how do you think like Indian football has progressed in the last few years? Like, India is now currently in the top 100. So how do you think that India as a country can move forward in football as a general football fan, like someone who watches football not very much, but who just watches the football for the love of it, for the love of the sport? How do you see Indian football in the next few years, and how do you think they can improve India can improve as a nation when it comes to football?
so first of all, India qualifying in top 100, it's a very very big thing deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Definitely,
it's a
definitely.
very big deal. People are not realizing it, because I know in upcoming times, and it's going to be very big first of all. And so just to have this idea that yeah, we qualified in top 100, so it must have been some energies around only with the help of those only. I would say that yeah, only. But yeah, it's a very very good thing that India finally qualified in the top 100, and I think it's going to be up from here, the journey. I mean, it's going to grow from here only. So first of all, it's a very big thing, and the way I see it now, the football is trending, especially in India also. So since
Hmm.
the introduction of ISL, Indian Football League, right? So all these teams and
Indian Super League. Yes, yes.
celebrities
Yep.
started to promote football. So it's a very good idea. So this has created a very good awareness of football, and I think
Hmm.
the youngsters nowadays, people who are coming, especially the teenagers, so this will help us to give them a good insight that yeah, actually what football is. Because earlier there was no any, like for any, for example, for cricket there was IPL, right? So they have the idea, so there's a game going on, so there was a point of interest, right? But for football
Like
there
the
was
leagues, like the leagues
right.
existed, but they were not as popular as they are
Right,
now,
right,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, very few people have heard in India that okay, since this all these Indian super leagues introduced, and so it has really sparked the interest of teenagers and youth of getting in. And nowadays it's a
Hmm.
very more and more parents are also pushing their children to especially in metropolitan cities, okay, go learn football. And and no more, even if they have no idea what football is, they, because in India mostly people are from the back culture where cricket is the prominent part of their life.
Yes.
And I
It's
think
very
for me
deep
also,
rooted.
yeah, yeah, I think it might not be for us, because it might be for us father parents where it was only cricket only. But for us it's like cricket and football and other sports only, because earlier,
Right.
right? So in upcoming times, there's awareness. So I think parents are also going to push their children to okay to go and try football, and so that they believe that there are lots of scope. So that is why they are wanting the children's. And nowadays I have seen this that most in many schools. So they are, what they are doing, they are having these special trainers that who can help them and make their football skills more precise. And
Correct.
they are giving special attention. So it's a very good thing that schools and institution are putting effort to it, because they are also becoming serious about it. So in next 5 to 10 years we are going to see a very high increase in all these football fans, and the interest in football. And I think it's going to be a very big scope for Indian football fans, and all around the world. And hopefully if India keeps to Indian team, if it continues to play with all the continuous efforts, so definitely it's going to be very big. And hopefully we can see that in the top 50s. And no, it's not a big thing if we can make it in 100. So definitely we can make it in top 50s, and or in fact in 25s, or because it's about efforts. And I think Indian teams are putting in the efforts, so they are setting this benchmark, right? So they're setting the
Sorry.
benchmark where so they are setting up the benchmark where they can give us an example, their youngsters can see it, yeah, there's something in
Right.
football also, right? So it's a very good thing, and I am also looking forward to it. And yeah, it's a very good thing. And yeah, hopefully we are going to very big, and we as a nation we have something to be proud of in football, like cricket also. So yeah, we all are waiting for that moment where we'll be proud and standing and playing in the finals of FIFA someday, and
Yeah.
national anthem is playing, and with the grace of God that will happen. That's not a far thing, right? So yeah.
That's it.
Inshallah, I think that would definitely bring goosebumps to all of us as a nation. But yeah, there's one thing about I would like to ask you that. So we have talked about spirituality. Now, how do you think, like for the general sportsmen, how much do you think it is important for footballers in general to be connected? Maybe not even to God, but just to have that sort of belief that connect with their soul just to be able to perform better in matches. How do you think it is related to the sport?
Yes, of course. I mean, Heather, I can answer this, but I had one small additional point to make, because after a point, I'll just forget it later on, because Heather I had just said so many things. I had to react to so many things, but it's like in my college, in Global Institute of Sports Business, where I'm doing in Mumbai, there is one of the classes taken by Neil Shah, who is our associate dean, and he had last week only taken some classes on self discovery. So what basically Heather mentions is something that I don't know a lot about right now, but I also agree that a lot of people, irrespective of the industry you are in, it's a growing cognizance around it, because people want to, after a point of time, know that what happens when you are, after in matches, certain
It
tournaments,
was
Sorry
a
and
guys,
question. Huh?
sorry
No
guys.
problem.
Actually, there's
Huh.
an electricity problem. No? So the inverter is
Huh.
about to die. So what happening is the inverter is going off, and so the Wi-Fi also
No problem.
disconnected.
No,
So sorry.
no problem.
we'll just
We'll edit
Yeah,
it out. Huh.
continue.
Huh.
We'll just continue from where we were. So,
It
yeah.
was a question to Meena. It was a question to Meena.
we will start off with by what you asked to Anukar sir, you asked to Heather about spirituality and how it helps players. Whole apart
ठीक
in the
ठीक
21st or 22nd minute जो लिया था वहीं
should
से
I
हम edit
should I
कर start start.
ठीक है हाँ. So yeah, you can talk about spirituality and football. That थोड़ा सा हाँ.
Okay, shall we start?
हाँ वो
Yes.
कोई नहीं वो edit हो जाएगा उसमें दिक्कत नहीं.
Cool, cool. So, like the question you asked, that how both of these things are related for a journal, I mean, day to day man, right? I mean, what they can incorporate and they can take. So, the way I see it is that since we all are spiritual, right? We all have the soul and the spiritual part to it, right? We all are human beings. So, I think what we can do as a human beings in a day to, in order to understand more. So, what we should try to understand ourselves, right? Because the more we will try to understand who we are able to discover our abilities that we have, the abilities beyond comprehension, right? Because they are still part of us that we are not able to discover, and because of that reasons we always feel that there's a lack of something. I because I don't have this, I am not, I cannot do this, because I don't have these. We all have those reasons where we can always provide, we can use as a excuse to not
Do
do
you
something.
think? Do you think Hyderabad that is one of the reasons that some players like was a player with Tottenham Hotspur a few years back. Dele Ali was his name. He was performing very well, but with time, he lost confidence. He lost out. So, do you think that mental psyche is one of the reasons
Yeah,
footballers go from
yeah,
being world stars on one day to
yeah,
absolute
yeah, it's
no shows?
yeah, it's a very big reason, because like I said, we all are humans and we all have these parts. We are not aware of who we are actually, right? So the reason is, it could be because of his decline, is because of this, because there is something in him that these states, in mental states and emotional state, that were not able to things might have happened with him. So because of those reasons he was feeling that, yeah, okay, there's a problem. So what he could have done, or like we can take an example out of it. So what he can do, he could take some time to himself and start to do some meditation and journey to the self, that we say that can give some time to himself and get in touch with his soul. And yeah, because we can also see in all these movies and all these in Hollywood and everything, what happens, the hero, this is the journey of a hero. It's a very, so they have a life, they have a problems, and they have a hard childhood, and there's
Yeah.
always problem, right? So there's a part to it, that they discover, right? And once it is discovered, everything changes, the game changes, right? So it's a journey of a hero. It's a journey of a very common man, you, me, and we all have that spark and in it something waiting to be discovered. It's just that we need to get in touch with it. And once we discover that who we are, so the game changes. And the dynamics, that the way we are playing, because like we said, football and life, it's a very, very related things, right? So it's not only that we need to win in football, we need to win in life. So the key is same both.
Definitely. I
The
think that's very true. Whatever Heather Bai is sharing, because I was earlier sharing that one of our classes earlier this week in my college was about this was done by Mr. Neil Shah, who's our associate dean at GISB, Global Institute of Sports Business, that I study here in Mumbai. So he had taken a total of 8 sessions for this week and for a couple of months earlier on self discovery sessions. So just to like go through whatever they wanted to broadly want, if I have to summarize what he wanted to share is, which is slightly different from the medium
yeah,
thing that you are sharing,
yeah,
but a bit more around how we need to connect ourselves to the higher purpose of things. Like for example, if I am a sports management student right now, most of my classmates are only thinking probably what is the salary that I'm going to get after the job that I'm going
yes,
to
yes.
join after this, which is a
Right.
very practical assumption, because I do
Hmm.
understand many people have spent lakhs and lakhs of money to get into this course. It's and in general, Mumbai as a place is a bit expensive. There are different kind of things, but I feel there is an inherent requirement for the youngsters of our generation to understand this side of things. So throughout the 25 minutes that of course Heather Bai has shared about mediums and how it's important to discover people's inner soul and inner talents, but I feel we as a generation are very distracted. So if we want to have a lot of deep work, and many people, many therapists or gurus who are doing well with what they are preaching and helping others, they will ask us to do our deep work and look inside. But we as a generation, we don't do that. Instead, we
Yeah,
are trying to engage in places, in things, in activities that would make that feeling go away, because it's an uncomfortable thing to do.
right,
When
right.
Heather, you mention
Yeah, so
about,
I
you know
would like to add, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add. So the way it works is from inside out, not outside in. So what we are doing, we are putting all our focus outside, the
Hmm.
world and the things going
Right.
outside. What we need to understand that the it works from inside to out, not outside to in. So what we simply had to do is just to sit and just bring our focus back to ourselves, center ourselves, right? Because we all have, I think we have lost our centers, because center is a feeling that help us to feel who we are, right? So
so
feeling
the
of that
center
center,
basically is the heart and the soul,
yeah,
right?
is right, exactly. Once you get in touch with yourself, so you can understand yourself better, and that will improve the quality of your life and also the quality of your game, football, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tremendous. I
Basically,
hope
the outer world is a reflection of what's happening inside, right?
exactly. That has been said by thousands of years ago, and by every sage or every the scholar that have been passed this word. So they
And
have simply
I also
told us.
feel, do you think it's easier for European footballers to do this more than Indian footballers? Because after a point of, I feel there is and I'm sure you must have heard about it, there is a Maslow's hierarchy of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, right,
Hmm.
First is
Yeah,
the
yeah.
basic needs, second is, social validation,
right, right,
third is
right.
security, and then the
The
last
final one is self-realization, self-help, and yeah,
Yeah.
actualization. Right. So
uh,
if we speak strictly in football terms, I feel only those can currently afford to go in that spiritualization medium direction, who have really established themselves as professional football players with proven performances. For example, India right now, and I'm sure Heather Bai's sentiments or Heather Bai's feelings about whatever he spoke about India 10 minutes ago is a sentiment that the entire football generation of our football fans of our generation agree. But it's a difficult task, because as Anukar sir would remember in one of our YouTube lives earlier this week, we mentioned there are many things that not currently make business sense. So only when certain on the spiritualization part can't be activated by probably a beggar who is in front of our house, like, just, and I could not
yeah, yeah,
put it in a more sophisticated way, but there are many different hindrances that come before one goes into that medium part. So it's
Absolutely.
interesting. It was interesting to know how it can be extrapolated into the sports world. Anukar sir, before we wrap this up, how what have you learned in terms of spirituality, medium, and sports in the last half an hour that we have spoken?
I think we often talk about differentials or bringing a different side of different sort of element to our podcast, and this is an episode in which I have learned a lot. I am sure you have learned a lot too, and I think our audiences will learn a lot too, because I think usually, like, we at the Indie Football Podcast, we as we write on Instagram bio that we inspire people to do the things that inspire them, right? And I think that this will be inspiration to everyone out there who is doubting themselves, who is not able to, get out of bed, who is, having those second thoughts. Because I think it's all a mental game. That is, I think, the crux of this episode. That's what Heather Bhai actually means. And
Yes.
like, all I would want to say is keep thank you, Heather Bhai, for coming on the episode. I know there have been a lot of obstacles, a lot of things, but yeah, just like in life, we get through it. And it has been a pleasure having you. And I think what you have brought to the podcast is a very different sort of element, and I'm sure like more people would like to connect with you on this medium thing. And definitely, like, all I can say is that I have a lot of gratitude from me and the rest of the team at the Anti Football Podcast, because today I think we have established a different sort of theme to our podcast, but also learned a lot along the way.
Yeah. So, in last, I would like to add like two to three things that I think that will wrap up, help us to wrap up the and give us left us with this insight to go back into our life is. I think it's very important. It's a very common, especially for men, especially young men nowadays. They are struggling all these hard feelings like depression and all that stuff. So I think it's very important to incorporate spirituality, especially for Indian men, because their parents, or they don't have an environment where they can talk to somebody, because if they'll talk to somebody, they feel that they'll be called fools or somebody. But those feelings are very real, right? And I think if they have somebody they can talk to, and they can work on those aspects of themselves that they have been hiding, or they're not able to bring forward to. So I think they can heal a very important part of their life, and they can grow in their life, not in terms of, see, growth is not only means in terms of money and something. I think the growth is a very broad term, and it also means how happy you are in the moment without expecting something for the next, right? So the happiness, if you're happy in this moment without expecting somebody, so that is also growth, because growth is it goes on, right? It expands, it does not comes down, right? And also, like you said, so like I said, I do these workshops, where I especially for young people, I'm doing these workshops where I help them to understand who they are, especially help to discover their life purposes, and help to become a medium. So I do not, I mean, becoming a medium, it's a very different game. And when I say medium, it's simple as that, help us to understand who they are, and work all those higher energies and all. So it will help them to get an insight of who they are, and they can discover their life purpose, and hopefully, so that is my purpose, and that's what I've been doing from past 2 to 3 years, especially for the young men. And in future, what I am planning on to especially create are these special workshops for only for men, young men who are unaware of who they are from their childhood, so they
Right,
can get rid this trauma and they can grow. Because if they are able to get out of this problems and all that, so in terms of they can grow, and who knows, the future life, and then they can become great footballers. We can, who knows, there might be a Messi sitting here in mm, some city, and they are just they are not feeling okay, that they do not feel capable of that, because they have been brought up into an environment where the parents taught them that they cannot
right,
do it, but they can do it. They need somebody who can believe in themselves. So my work is that only to help those people day to day, so they can come out of their shell and become who they are meant to be. So that's all I would say. And hopefully good energies will with all of us, and will make will lead a happy life. So that's the whole point of it, right? So that and we are not expecting anything out of this work. So the whole point is to make people who are listening to us become, they become aware of it, and
right,
so
right,
it's a very good thing. So I hope we all three will be able to help people who are out there, who will listen to us, and it will help them to give a, that there's a more to life, not giving up, and like football and the life. So there's always more. There's always one more
right,
kick. There's always one more decision. So yeah.
right, right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's a very fine way to sum up things. I'm sure whatever Heather Bhai has sought out to achieve, sought out to solve, sought out to help people is something that our country greatly needs and will also have a knock on effect in the sports industry. Thank you, Heather Bhai. Thank you, Anukas, for taking time out. Please don't forget to follow us on our social media pages Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and even subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, guys. Take care. Good night.
all right. Thank you guys. Bye.